Hey, come buy your things. Sweet oranges. Come and get your sweet oranges.
Once upon a time, in the noisy city of Ekene, where every street seemed to breathe ambition and every woman fought for survival with her own hands, I found myself struggling to be seen. My name is Chioma, and yes, people call me a successful hairstylist today. They look at my shop and see women waiting in line. They see me laughing with customers. They see me driving a car I once begged God for. But let me tell you the truth. I did not get here by skill alone. Behind the shine of my shop is a shadow. Behind my success lies a secret so dark that if you knew, you would never envy me again. I didn't always have what I have now. In fact, 3 years ago, I was just another village girl, carrying hope in one hand and my small savings in the other. I came to Ekene city like many young women do, searching for a better life, believing that my hands could carve out my own destiny. I rented a small shop on a street they called UK Road, a place already crowded with hairstylists who had been there long before me. From the very beginning, I was drowning. Customers walked past me as if I was invisible. I would stand at my shop door calling out, "Sister, come and do your hair here. I will make it fine for you." But they ignored me like I was cursed. They preferred to wait in long lines at other salons, even when I was free. I would watch them from my empty chair, laughing with their stylists, while my own combs and dryers sat untouched. Do you know how that feels? To watch people choose others over you, again and again, until your own reflection in the mirror starts to look like failure. At night, I cried alone in that little shop. My neighbors, other hairstylists, were not only making money, but also living the life I dreamed of. Some of them bought cars within a few years. Some were already building houses. And me? I was still calculating whether my money would be enough for food. Envy started growing inside me like a sickness. Every time I saw another woman drive past with her music loud and her sunglasses on, I felt bitterness choke me. My only comfort then was Ekene, my best friend. We learned hairstyling from the same master in the village, but our paths were not the same. While I struggled, Ekene's story was different. She had left the village just like me, but within 2 years, she was already established in another town. She had her own shop, her own car, and money that spoke for her. Whenever she visited me, I would pour out my frustration. "Ekene," I would cry, "Oh, why is my life like this?" We learned the same skill. We started the same time. Look at you now. You have a car, you have money, you have peace. But me, I cannot even feed myself properly. Tell me the truth. Tell me the secret. How did you succeed so fast? She would always laugh softly and shake her head. "Chioma, there is no secret. You are rushing life. I was only lucky to find a shop in a good location. Calm down. You are just 2 years in this business. These other women have built their names for many years. Don't let envy eat you alive." But envy had already eaten me. Her words felt like mockery to me. Each time she said, "Be patient," I only heard, "You are a failure." My heart burned hotter. I begged her again and again, "Please, Ekene, don't hide it from me. Tell me the truth. I want to be successful like you." She would sigh, look at me with pity, and change the subject, until one day. That day I was in my shop crying harder than ever. The customers had ignored me all morning, and I had barely made a single sale. When Ekene walked in, she found me broken, my head in my hands, my face wet with tears. For the first time, she didn't just tell me to be patient. Maybe my tears softened her heart, or maybe she was tired of my constant begging. She locked the shop door, looked at me with serious eyes and said, "Chioma, if you really want to succeed, there is a way. But it is not what you think. Do you have the courage?" I looked up, wiping my tears. My heart pounded. Yes, tell me. I will do anything. I am tired of suffering. She reached into her bag and pulled out something that sent chills down my spine. A small black polythene bag. On it, with white paint, was the drawing of a skull. My body froze. She handed it to me with her left hand and said, "Take it with your left hand." I hesitated, but I obeyed. The bag felt heavier than it looked. She leaned closer and whispered instructions that still ring in my ears till today. Each time a customer comes to your shop, cut a little of her hair and let it drop to the ground. At the end of the day, sweep your shop and gather all the hairs. Put them directly into this bag. Make sure nobody sees you. After that, bring the bag to the location I'll send you. Don't fail. I stared at her in shock. My own best friend. Was this how she succeeded? Was this what she was hiding from me all along? My body shook, but my mind was already trapped. I wanted what she had. I wanted her success. That night, when my loyal customer, Mrs. Ekene, came to fix her hair, I remembered the instructions. My hand trembled as I held the scissors, but I cut a small piece of her hair and let it fall. She didn't notice. Later that day, more customers came, and I repeated the same thing, each cut dropping into fate's hands. When night finally came, I locked my shop, swept the floor carefully, and packed all the hair into the strange bag. My heart was beating like a drum. I knew I had crossed a line I could never return from. But my hunger for success drowned my fear. By midnight, I was in a taxi, heading towards the forest location Ekene sent me. The driver kept glancing at me through his mirror. "Madam, are you okay? You are sweating. The AC is on, but you look afraid." I forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just a stressful day. Please drive fast." When he dropped me at the edge of the forest, he sped off immediately, as if I carried death on my shoulders. Maybe he was right. With only my phone's flashlight, I stepped into the darkness, clutching the bag tightly. The deeper I went, the stranger the noises I heard. Cries of babies, laughter of women, whispers of shadows. My legs shook, but I told myself, "Chioma, you cannot go back now. You must succeed no matter what it takes." And that, my friend, was the night everything changed. The first step I took into that forest felt like I was stepping into another world. The air was different, heavy, cold. My skin crawled as though unseen hands were brushing against me. The trees stood tall, dark, and twisted, their branches stretching across the sky like crooked fingers trying to block the moonlight. Every sound echoed louder than it should. Crickets, owls, the rustle of dry leaves. And then, those strange cries. At first I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. But no, I heard it clearly. The faint cries of babies, the distant laughter of women, and whispers that had no owner. I froze. My heart thumped so hard I thought it would leap out of my chest. I looked back at the road, thinking of running back. But then, the voice inside me said, "Chioma, you cannot turn back. You came here because you want wealth. You begged for it. You cut the hair. You packed it. You made your choice. Forward only." So I tightened my grip on the black polythene bag and forced my feet to keep moving. The deeper I went, the darker it became. My phone's flashlight was my only companion. Each time I raised it, I saw pairs of glowing eyes reflecting back at me from the bushes. Wild animals, perhaps. But strangely, none of them came close. They only watched, as if they knew I wasn't just any intruder. I was expected. After what felt like hours, I reached a small clearing. The map on my phone buzzed softly, showing that I had arrived at the location Ekene sent. There, in the middle of the clearing, was something that almost made me drop the bag in my hands. A small clay pot sitting on the ground, surrounded by red cloth and cowries, and right beside it, a wooden staff with feathers tied to the top. My knees grew weak. I wanted to turn around and run, but the air around me shifted suddenly. I can't explain it. It was as though the forest itself came alive. The wind rose, whispering through the trees like voices chanting my name. Chioma! Chioma! I froze, clutching the bag tighter. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, measured. From the shadows, an old woman appeared. She was bent, with grey hair that fell in long strands over her face. Her wrapper was black, her skin wrinkled like leather dried in the sun, yet her eyes, they glowed red in the dark like burning coal. My body trembled as she came closer, her voice scratching through the silence. So, you have come. I swallowed hard. My throat was dry. My friend Ekene, she told me to come here. She said you would help me. The woman tilted her head slowly, studying me like a hunter studies a trapped animal. Then she smiled, a smile that made my blood run cold. Help you? No one comes here unless their heart is already poisoned with envy. And yours, my daughter, is full to the brim. I wanted to deny it, but the words stuck in my throat. She was right. Envy had eaten me alive. Where is the bag? She asked sharply. I hesitated, clutching it closer to my chest. The hair, she barked. Give it to me. With trembling hands, I stepped forward and handed her the polythene bag. She didn't take it with her hands. Instead, she pointed at the clay pot on the ground. Empty it. I bent down and poured the hair into the pot. As soon as the last strand touched it, the ground beneath us shook slightly. The pot began to smoke. The red cloth fluttered though there was no wind. A low hum filled the clearing, like voices rising from the earth itself. The woman lifted her staff, striking it on the ground 3 times. From this night, you are bound, she declared. I jumped at her words. Bound? Bound to what? She leaned closer, her red eyes burning into mine. Bound to wealth, bound to customers, bound to endless success. But remember this, child, everything has a price. Nothing comes free. My chest tightened. My mouth was dry. What price? The woman only laughed, a hollow, haunting laugh that echoed through the forest. You will find out soon enough. For now, go. From tomorrow your shop will never lack customers. People will be drawn to you like flies to honey. They will not know why, but they will come. And you must keep feeding the bag. Her words sent chills down my spine. Feeding the bag? She nodded slowly. Each day, gather more hair. Sweep your shop. Cut secretly. The bag must never be empty. As long as you obey, your wealth will grow. But if you ever stop... Her laughter grew louder, filling the forest with fear. If you ever stop, then you will see the true face of poverty. And worse. I wanted to ask more, but suddenly everything went silent. The woman vanished into thin air, leaving only the clay pot, now covered in ash. I stood there, shaking, clutching my chest. The forest felt heavier now. Even the air was harder to breathe, but strangely, a wicked kind of joy started growing in me. Because deep down, I knew what this meant. My life was about to change. I had entered a covenant I didn't understand, but I didn't care. For the first time since I opened my shop, I felt powerful. I turned around and walked out of the forest, my phone light trembling in my hand. And as I stepped back onto the lonely road where the taxi had dropped me, I whispered to myself, Chioma, you will be rich, no matter what it takes. When I woke up the next morning, I wasn't sure if what I had experienced was real or just some terrifying dream. My body ached, my heart was heavy, and my room felt unusually cold. The black polythene bag was lying right there on my table, empty now, and that was when I realized it wasn't a dream. It had really happened. For a long moment, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the bag like it was some kind of monster. My conscience whispered to me, Chioma, you should stop now. You should burn that bag and never step foot in that forest again. But my greed answered back louder. What if the old woman was right? What if your life changes today? You've tried the clean way for years and nothing worked. Why not try this way now? That was the battle inside me. But like every greedy person, I chose the voice that suited me. I took a quick bath, dressed neatly, and went to my salon before sunrise. Nobody was there yet. I remembered the instructions, the ashes, so I carefully sprinkled them at the entrance of my shop, whispering nervously, let this thing work, please let it work. Then I sat inside and waited. At exactly 7 a.m., the first woman walked in, not one of my usual customers, a brand new face. She smiled warmly and asked if I could make her hair. I almost laughed in disbelief. One customer was normal, wasn't it? But then as I was attending to her, 2 other women came in. By the time I finished, 6 more were waiting outside. By noon, my shop was buzzing like a market. I was overwhelmed, my hands aching, sweat dripping, but I was smiling like never before. Money was flowing into my hands faster than I could count. For the first time in years, I felt rich. That night when I got home, I couldn't stop laughing. I called Ekene immediately. Ekene! You won't believe it. My shop was full today, more customers than I've ever had in my life. She went silent for a moment, then said in a low voice, I told you, Chioma. I told you. But don't forget, remember the bag. Her voice sent a shiver down my spine. From that day, my life changed. Every morning I sprinkled the ashes. Every evening I swept my salon carefully, gathering every strand of hair into the polythene bag. Women came like bees to honey. They paid double, sometimes triple, without complaining. In less than 2 weeks, I made enough to buy new furniture for my shop. In 1 month, I employed 2 workers. By 3 months, I was making more money than I ever dreamed. But deep inside me, there was a voice that wouldn't stop asking questions. Why me? Why now? Why must it be hair? What exactly am I feeding? I didn't have answers, and honestly, I didn't care enough to search. I only cared about the money. But then, something happened that I will never forget. One afternoon, one of my regular customers, Mrs. Ekene, came in smiling as always. She was a good woman, one of my favorites, because she tipped well and always spoke kindly. I fixed her hair beautifully. She left happy and I felt proud. But the next day I saw her by the roadside waiting for a taxi. I was shocked. Madame Ekene, what are you doing here? Where is your car? Her eyes were swollen from crying. She shook her head and said, Chioma, my husband's company collapsed yesterday. The bank froze his accounts. My children had an accident on their way back from school. Her voice broke. They all died, Chioma. They all died. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. My mind went blank. I wanted to comfort her, but guilt clawed at my chest. Because in that moment, something inside me whispered, it is her hair. You took her hair. I pushed the thought away quickly. I told myself it was just coincidence. I gave her some money and drove off, but my heart was heavy. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing her tears, kept hearing her voice. But the very next morning, when I opened my shop, customers were already waiting. New faces, old faces, all smiling, all eager. And my greed silenced my guilt again. I told myself, Chioma, you didn't kill anybody. Life is unfair sometimes. Ekene's tragedy is not your fault. Just keep walking, keep growing. But in truth, I knew something wasn't right, because every time I swept the floor and put hair into that bag, I felt as though I was collecting people's lives, not just strands of hair. And deep down, I feared the old woman's laughter, that echo in the forest when she said, "Everything has a price." I didn't know it then, but the price was already being paid, and sooner or later, I too would pay mine. 6 months later, that was the time to pay the price of my new life. At first, I told myself it was simple: sweep hair, gather, deliver, and watch money flow like river. Easy. But nobody explained to me the way fear would crawl into my skin every night I went to sleep. Nobody told me how the laughter of the women in the forest would follow me back home, echoing in my sleep. But by day, when my salon was full, women packed like sardines, waiting for me as if I was the only stylist in Ekene. My fear melted into pride. Poverty had left my door. My hands were counting money that once felt like dream. Soon, wives of big men, politicians, bankers, women that once looked at me like rag. They were now sitting on my chair, begging me to fix their hair. And still, but deep down, I can hear the devil in my head whispered, "Don't be deceived. These same people who smile at you today will laugh when you fall tomorrow." Because that's how society is. They don't hate poverty. No, they hate the poor. They spit on you when you're down, but they will still curse you when you climb up too fast. 6 months later, it was time to renew the ritual. My hands shook as I swept the floor, feeling that black bag again with strands of women's hair. I remembered the priestess's voice, "Miss One, and everything will turn against you." So even when my heart wanted to stop, my fear dragged me back into that forest. Every time I got there, the forest felt more darker, more heavier. Soon, started to see myself as witch. I started to enjoy the voices calling my name. Sometimes it sounded like babies crying, sometimes like women laughing. And when I reached the shrine, the priestess smiled at me with teeth too white for her wrinkled face. I dropped the bag at her feet and bowed towards her, and she whispered chants that made the air around us shiver. Then she said words that cut through my chest. "Wealth is never free. Every strand of hair you gather is a soul tied to your fortune. You want more money? Then be ready to carry more souls." I should have run that night, but I didn't, because poverty is a demon that whispers louder than any warning. Poverty had already made me deaf, and all I could see was the life I craved: cars, houses, respect, power. I walked out of that forest with trembling legs, but my mind was already hardened. That was how I became both a celebrated stylist and a prisoner of 6 moons. Wealth had finally smiled at me, but behind that smile, death was waiting. Months passed. I finally married a good man. Respect followed me everywhere. People that once mocked me were now greeting me with bowed heads. And when I became pregnant, it felt like life was complete. Chioma, the poor village girl, was now a wife, a businesswoman, and soon a mother. 6 months into my pregnancy, I was summoned by the priestess again. I went into the forest holding my swollen belly, praying it was just another ordinary renewal. But her eyes pierced me before she even spoke. "Chioma," she said, "this time the sacrifice is greater. Your unborn child must be given if you want your wealth to last." Her words cut me open like a blade. Sacrifice? My own baby? The blood in my veins turned cold. I stood there shaking, but something inside me screamed, "No!" For the first time, I resisted. I left the forest without bowing to her. I told myself, I can't do this. Let wealth go if it must. I will not kill my child. But resistance has its price. From that night, sleep became my enemy. Every time I closed my eyes, I was swallowed by horrible nightmares. I saw myself in bondage and women holding scissors and trying to cut my hair. I saw women laughing at me with teeth too sharp for humans. And each dream ended with a pounding headache so strong it felt like my skull would crack. I would wake up screaming, sweating, and clutching my stomach. My husband thought it was pregnancy stress, but I knew it was the priestess tormenting me for disobedience. One dawn, the headache grew so unbearable that I shaved my head completely. As the hair fell to the ground, I felt a strange release, but my belly twisted in pain. It was as if the unborn child inside me was fighting to stay alive, while unseen hands tried to drag her away. Then came the day of delivery. I was in front of my shop when it struck. Suddenly I felt a burning pain in my stomach, not like labor pains, but as if my baby was eating me alive from the inside. I screamed and collapsed to the ground. People rushed to help me, but I was no longer myself. The black magic had caught up with me. On that roadside, in the middle of shame and agony, my mouth betrayed me. I started confessing. I shouted about the rituals, the hair, the polythene bag, the priestess, the forest, everything. People stood in shock, staring at me like I was a mad woman. And then, madness came. The police carried me, but not to the hospital, to the psychiatrist. My shop was sealed, my name destroyed. I became both a criminal and a lunatic in the eyes of society. Yet in the middle of my madness, something strange happened. I gave birth. A healthy, strong baby girl, life snatched from death, innocence born from corruption. My husband, broken but loyal, took the child into his arms while I raved and wailed in my psychiatric cell. Wealth was gone, respect was gone, but the child lived. And that was the last gift the world gave me, because that is how greed works. It gives you everything you crave, only to snatch it away and leave you empty, mocked, and forgotten. If you want a part 2 of Kaoma's tragic story, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Mumxy for more dark African tales.